Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Making Your Business Thrive Using Cloud. We're joined here at the socially distant 360 IT Partners conference room. I don't know if you can see everybody here, so we are together yet apart for safety reasons, obviously. The goal today is really just to spend some time talking through ways that you can use cloud to make your small business thrive, grow, scale, etc. throughout COVID-19 and what the future is going to be like. So to make some introductions, my name is Luke Barton. I'm the Business Development Director here at 360 IT. We've got Brian Reeves, who is our Technical Business Advisor. And then we have Justin Carter, one of our owners and our Chief Technology Officer. So the goal today is really to spend about 45 minutes talking through the different ways that we can make things thrive, and just to share a little bit about who we are as a company. We were founded in 1995, and we serve small businesses in the area, the entire coastal Virginia region, in fact. And we've been doing this for about 25 years now, and through the years we've seen technology change, so we've changed with it. And, you know, an important thing in any business is your why. So our why we exist, and you can see it on the screen there, is, you know, it's frustrating to deal with IT headaches. And so we provide clients with an IT success roadmap, and we use the same tools that we share with them to grow our business. And the idea is that when you have an IT plan and people taking care of it, you can really focus on growing your business and not worrying about tech issues. So without further ado, the reason we're here today is, what exactly is the cloud? So I'm going to turn it over to Justin to kind of dig into this a little bit.
Yeah, so I like to say, you know, there is no cloud. You know, it's just someone else's computer. You know, cloud is a term that's been around for many years. You know, really, it's a marketing term, and simply put, it is the internet. Cloud is nothing magical, and in terms of technology, it really is a collection of computers across the world that that operate to allow people to utilize them and pay for only what they're using, pay for resources. You're turning your infrastructure into your electric bill. So you're only paying for the units of consumption that you're using. And that's really the magic of it, you know, being able to flex up and flex down as you need. There's three major types of clouds, three primary types. You know, we have public clouds, we have private clouds, and we have hybrid clouds. You know, an example of a public cloud you guys might have heard of is Microsoft Azure, which is what Office 365 runs on, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Public cloud is used by many folks, and resources are carved out and given to individuals for their usage. Private clouds are very similar, except that those resources are dedicated to one organization. A private cloud is something that does not have other tenants. It does not have other users using that cloud infrastructure. So an example of that might be, you know, like the government. The government has their own private cloud that they use so that they're not commingling their data or commingling their resources on the back end, you know, with others. And then hybrid cloud, of course, is a mix of both public and private, where you've got some resources on premise, maybe some resources in your facility, and you're utilizing resources in a public cloud as well, like Office 365. An example of that might be you're using Office 365 for your email, yet you have your files on a server in your facility. So those are really the three major types of cloud. But again, we like to say tongue-in-cheek, there is no cloud, it's just someone else's computer.
Yeah, you know, Justin, I really like what you said about, you know, it's just someone else's computer, you know, and there are a lot of technical terms, you know, private cloud, hybrid cloud, you know, but, you know, the goal is to kind of educate you on what the cloud is, and again, kind of bringing it closer to making your business thrive. You know, how can we take advantage of these, you know, cloud services, you know, which, you know, we're going to kind of segue here momentarily about, you know, email and all the different types of tools that we could use in the cloud, you know, but I think that the main goal is, you know, how does a business owner take advantage of these tools and grow their business, you know, gaining efficiencies and things like that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to dig into specifically the different benefits of cloud. And as we go through this presentation, you know, we kind of want this to be more of a conversation. Our goal is that you walk away with, you know, a couple of really good nuggets that you maybe can apply to your own business or practices. So at the end of this presentation, we've reserved about 10 to 15 minutes for questions and answers. So there's a chat dialog down below. So if you have a question during any of the presentation, go ahead and throw your question into the chat, and we'll go through those there at the end.
Yeah, I think it's great that we're going to take on some questions, but the cloud is kind of a scary thing. These terms that we're using, can be a little scary, but how do I say? Many times, folks are already taking advantages of these cloud services, and I've just been kind of thinking about a couple of things as you begin to talk. But think about iTunes and how you're pulling down music, from the cloud. That's probably a more realistic example of what a lot of us have
experience. With the cloud.
Exactly. Email and things like that. So, so what are some of the benefits of the cloud? And what we're going to talk about is, mobility, collaboration, scalability. We're going to weave these, topics into the tools. And so, by the end of this, you should have a specific tool that will allow all of these things, to happen. And so again, we're going to talk about mobility, collaboration, scalability, security, and compliance. Business continuity, that's a big one too. It's like, because these options are available, we can now not have to worry about losing files, right? There's disaster can happen, and so we can protect ourselves from that. Justin, was there anything else that we could maybe add to mobility or to these benefits of using these tools and services?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a disaster. Let's say, so somebody's on maternity or paternity leave. They have the ability to access their stuff from wherever they're at. Mobility. You can be on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean. As long as there's an internet connection, you can get to your email, you can get to your files. You don't even need to be using your own computer specifically. You can be using a shared kiosk computer and using Outlook Web Access. And we'll get into a little bit more specifics later, but mobility is a huge benefit of the cloud, being able to be anywhere and work from anywhere. Of course, collaboration, being able to collaborate with your peers anywhere, being able to instant message and do real-time communication is another huge benefit. You want to talk about scalability?
Yeah, I think, and this is something that was kind of coming up in our topics. We talk about scalability quite a bit. What I think most businesses will see, is a growth, right? And that's really what this seminar is about: is how to make your business thrive and grow. So one of the great benefits of using cloud services is that it's very scalable. As you grow, we can increase the resources that we're using, and then of course we can also kind of shrink them back down. And I want to say that as a technical business advisor, these are topics of conversation that we have with business owners. Because one of the things that we talk about, and I love what Luke said to start us off with, about these are the tools that we use ourselves to grow our own business. And so I feel like we come from a level of expertise here when we start talking about capital expenses and operational expenses, and really scalability and these types of expenses kind of go hand in hand. And I know we always talk about the example of kind of like a light bill. As usage increases, we can grow. Let's just say, at the end of the eve, when things are starting to wind down for the day, we can scale back those resources, and have some cost savings there.
Yeah.
Does that kind of, make sense? Like I said, that there's a huge difference between capital, right, expenses, especially when you're starting up a business. There's a lot of investing that's going on there. But these operational expenses make it very easy to budget and plan for.
Not to mention security. When you think about cloud, a lot of folks are concerned about, is this a secure platform? So when you think about a cloud provider and where that computer is actually located, those environments are secure beyond what any small business could ever hope to accommodate on their own. I like to say it's kind of like it's like a resort for your computer. You don't want to put your computer up for a night at the Red Roof Inn with maybe just one internet connection, no security, just a continental breakfast. No, you want it at the Ritz, where it's going to have every need thought of before they can even think of it: redundant power, security, off the grid type location. That's where the cloud truly is. So when you think about, if I subscribe to a cloud service, is it secure? The answer is beyond what you could even imagine. And then, one thing that we kind of touched on briefly was business continuity. What that really means is your business prepared for an unexpected change? Whether that's a disaster, COVID-19, all of a sudden we're going from working in our brick and mortars to being dispersed. Cloud is going to put you in a position to be prepared for those continuity situations before they happen. So now we're going to move in and kind of dive a little bit deeper into each topic. So an example of cloud services for small business are going to be email group collaboration, file storage and sharing, VoIP or voice communications, video conferencing, and website and digital marketing. So Brian, why don't you take the first one there with email?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, this is probably the most common, most obvious one that there is, right? But we can take advantage of, we use Office 365, but you also have Google Mail. There's other platforms out there. But this email is stored, on a server somewhere else. And again, it gives us, great mobility and accessibility. So, for example, most people live and die by email these days, right? And so, as Justin was alluding to earlier, as long as we have an internet connection, we have access to that email. We have access to the email on our laptops. We can use, applications on our phones to gain access to that. And I think as a business owner, and again, right, as you thrive and you grow, what you'll often find is that many people are wearing many different hats, and having the mobility and the accessibility and the tools that you can use via email. I've had several customers that say, "Hey, Brian, we do truly live and die by email. It's a very time sensitive, type of engagement. So we want to be able to give that platform, to everyone."
And one thing I think is worth mentioning is Microsoft and Google have both put a lot of time, energy, and effort into developing their web apps. And what I mean to say is, if you're used to and very familiar with the experience that you have running Microsoft Outlook on your computer, the web version of Outlook is very robust. I mean, the dragging and dropping is there now. The visual interface of it is very much looking like what you have on your computer, and that's very intentional by Microsoft. Instead of having to install an app on your computer, you can use Outlook Web Access or Gmail. And they've always done it through a web interface. Those web interfaces have really matured quite a bit, and even somebody like me who really lives and dies by my email, Outlook Web Access is a great substitute to running Outlook on my computer, and it allows me also to, if I'm at a relative's house and I don't have my computer, I can use their computer to get to my email. Same with being in a hotel or in a kiosk situation. You can get to your Outlook from anywhere in the world without having to install Outlook on the computer, and of course, conversely, Gmail on the Google side.
I'm sorry. I know, Luke, you're about to talk, but when I think about email, this is really the foundation. When Justin had mentioned, hybrid cloud, this is something most folks feel comfortable moving to, something like a product like Office 365, which is online email, for a variety of reasons. But this is a great idea, or a great example of a hybrid cloud, where maybe we do have a server with some file shares, at the office, but then we've taken this potentially huge capital expense, we've transitioned it to an operational expense, and we've handed this over, to the cloud. So many folks are used to using that type of hybrid cloud service.
And something about, why is cloud helpful with email? A lot of folks got excited when, you could start using email on your phone, which is great. But even then, if that email host server is still sitting, in your office, and there's any kind of internet or power interruption at the office, your phones are losing email too. So once you get that transition to the cloud, you truly have that redundancy everywhere that you access your email. And for us, a lot of these terms are really kind of commonplace, but I did want to just briefly make sure everybody understood what Outlook web app means. It literally means going to any web browser where you can type in a web address and going to, Outlook online, logging with your username and password, and boom, you're in what looks like an Outlook application.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe just a couple closing thoughts on email. As Justin said, Microsoft has been very intentional about this. So a lot of the tools that we're going to talk about in the upcoming slides have some sort of integration with Outlook. When we talk about, scheduling meetings and the use of Teams, those types of things, it really ties in together very nicely with Outlook, because I think that's a product that most of us are familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the next topics that we're going to talk about is Teams, and Justin's going to kind of give us a rundown on Teams. How does it tie into these collaboration, mobility, security types of themes to make your business grow.
Yeah, so Teams, I would say, has really been life-changing, and we've seen lots of organizations adopt Microsoft Teams, and another product that's very popular out there is Slack. You guys might have heard of. We're going to kind of try to keep focused on the Microsoft stack today, but Microsoft Teams is an amazing cloud service that can keep a team really connected during COVID times. I mean, we have adopted Teams and are really living and breathing on Teams during this pandemic. But it's a great example of how you can think about it as a kind of a workspace that everybody can work from. You can have channels that, let's say projects team, and I'll just kind of give some examples for us, our projects team, our centralized services team, our service desk, there's channels within each of those teams that get created, and people can collaborate on a file. You can drop a file into this channel, and you guys can collaborate on changes in that document in real time. You can see who last edited it. You can check it in and out. You can, post things, post links, post articles, and collaborate really as a team on one particular topic. What we have is, we have many teams within our organization, and then we have channels under those teams. And it really helps us to stay connected with our teammates and our colleagues. You can invite outside parties into those teams to share files and to collaborate with you as well. It's really a hub. It's a hub for all things in Office 365. There's lots of plugins for Teams as well to even get more value out of it. Ability to integrate with other tools like Microsoft Planner, and we'll get into some of those later in our presentation here. But Teams really has been life-changing, and we use it to stay in communication about all the various topics, all the various things that we have going on in our business. And it is a place that you can go to organize everything that you've got going on from a sort of group collaboration standpoint. Another great way that it can be used is for messaging. Like, let's say you're on the phone and somebody calls in for you. You can have somebody instant message you that, hey, XYZ is on the line, it's an emergency, they need to, you can stay in communication through instant messaging, but it's so much more than just the ability to instant message your colleagues. A lot of people do look at it as just kind of an instant messaging platform, but people can build their whole day around it. And the slide that I kind of put together here shows how a remote worker can kind of utilize it and what they're doing to stay in communication, how they're keeping their schedule in sync, how they're doing meetings. Much like Zoom that we're using here today, it can also be used to do one-to-many video conferencing, inviting third-party people into your video conferencing. So that's another component, is the video conferencing and face-to-face sort of communication that we're all getting used to now during this global pandemic.
A great example of practically applied. Here at 360, we used to have a Monday morning team meeting with everybody here in this conference room, the exact opposite of social distancing. Enter COVID. How do we still have effective team meetings? Microsoft Teams. We're now able to have 50 to 60 people in that one-to-many situation Justin was mentioning, where we're able to see each other and talk and present, and our CEO and leadership is able to stay connected with everybody face to face, which is key. And then I think another big thing, we talk about thriving during COVID. You know, if you are used to that office environment where you're getting energy from each other, you can communicate, drive by each other's desks. Microsoft Teams gives you that same ability by way of you can see each other's availability. It automatically is looking at your calendar and telling other folks if you're busy or not. And then I think one thing that's huge is, you know, as human beings, we kind of steer clear of inconvenience and we gravitate towards convenience. So when it comes to making someone's job convenient, Microsoft Teams does that really well by making it right at your fingertips to be able to communicate. Think about building a PowerPoint for a presentation. How do you do that when you're not in the same office? Teams, you're able to all, you know, dial into the same presentation or the same Excel spreadsheet and work on it together in a collaborative environment while video chatting and talking and actually working in the same document. And then again, it's saved, it's in a safe place, you can access it from anywhere. So convenience, I think, is one of the big elements of Teams, you know, by way of the cloud that really benefits a business. And then when it comes to thinking about the future and you're building a solution for the future, you're not buying this big server stack in anticipation of what your business is going to look like in 6 to 7 years. And as we've now seen, not only does technology perpetuate quickly these days and change, but the world changes. So this is a solution set that's going to future-proof your business, and you're not going to be biting off, you know, more than you can chew for the future by some big capital expense for a new server or some expensive new software. You're just getting into this solution set that's cloud-based. They're doing all the innovation for you, and you're benefiting from all of that research and development that Microsoft does. So kind of a little bit of a tangent there, but the idea being that you're buying into a solution that's going to be there for the long term.
And I've got another example too, and this is kind of hitting on our topic of how to make your business thrive. One way that we use Teams to make our business thrive is meetings, more productive meetings. And so an example of this would be we have a Teams channel that represents each major meeting that we have. So every week I have a manager's meeting, and during the week we'll come up with topics for that manager's meeting, and everybody has access to the channel that represents this meeting. So if I'm at my house and I'm thinking, oh, hey, I should remember to bring this up in the meeting, I can open up the app on my phone. I can go in and say, reminder to talk about promotion of XYZ employee, or whatever the topic might be. And that way I've got a stake in the ground to make sure that it comes up in the meeting when we're sitting down and having the meeting. So that's a really great way that we've used Teams to kind of help us to thrive. And then also for meeting minutes, to go back and take meeting minutes for what we've talked about in that meeting, so that when we have the next meeting, we can all look back at the meeting minutes and say, okay, here were the topics last week. Are there any follow-up items that we need to do? And it's all in one central place that's accessible from anywhere in the world, including our phones and any computer that we might want to log into. I was talking earlier about the Outlook web application, and of course Luke kind of chimed in to tell us that web application is an application that you can access through your web browser through a web address. Teams also has a web app that can be used, so you don't necessarily even have to have Teams installed on your computer to use it, or be at a computer that you're always a laptop that you own. You could literally be at any kiosk anywhere in the world, or on your phone. I just think that that's so powerful, and Teams is probably worth its weight in gold in terms of one of the things that you get as part of an Office 365 subscription that can really change your business. It's something that we see people underutilize all the time, and it's certainly a way that you can make your business thrive using the cloud.
Yeah, and I'll say, Luke, if you thought you went down the rabbit hole or a tangent, as I'm listening to you guys talk, before we move on to the next topic, I'm a big collaboration guy. I like video conferencing. I like all the tools and the channels, right, that Justin was referring to. And you can kind of think of the channels as almost like an organizational chart that kind of helps keep things together. But as I'm listening to you guys talk, I think about some words of wisdom from Simon Sinek, who I'm a big fan of. But kind of bringing this closer to home with COVID, these are some changes that we're seeing, in our personal and professional lives. And so, there's introverts who really, if they put themselves in an extroverted situation, that takes away energy from them. versus an extrovert. He wants to get his energy or receive his energy, from that interaction. And so you have these two conflicting types of personalities. And, I will say for me, I draw my energy from others. So having the ability to see folks, right, even if, at one point it was, long hair, hats, pajamas, via these Teams meetings, I drew a lot of energy from that, and so these are big collaboration tools that we can certainly take advantage of, and then also kind of be, remote in some sense.
And one last thing on collaboration and the beauty of Teams is there's kind of a continuity element built into this. And whenever I use the word continuity, what I'm really meaning is the ability to come back from any kind of a disaster quickly. So an end user, that loses their laptop or something breaks or a piece of hardware fails, if that end user has a very business critical role, the time it takes to get them another laptop ordered, especially in today's world where things can be back ordered, that can really be a major impact. So when you have tools that are all accessible from web access, that's a real beautiful continuity piece because you're no longer dependent on an individual piece of hardware. So laptop goes down, no problem. Borrow somebody's. Go to anywhere that you can get online, and you're back at work quickly. There's a really nice business continuity element built into that. So our next topic here is going to be file sharing and storage in the cloud via OneDrive.
Yeah, so and I think Justin and I will probably piggyback and take this one together. But again, this idea of collaboration, file sharing. I'm not sure what every business owner out there is, but I'm sure there's one thing we all have in common. This is something that I coach frequently on, to some of my clients or our clients, is this idea of file sharing, file storage, right? That's always a big topic is, hey, are we going to run out of space if we take on, this new contract? Do we have enough space on our server? And while, storage has exponentially decreased, or the cost of that storage has exponentially, decreased over time, as to now, Microsoft Office Suite, right? You receive this Teams package that we spent quite a bit of time talking on, but it also included is this thing called OneDrive. And what that is just basically an online file and folder storage area. And then there's different types of files and folders that we can share. There's kind of like a personal OneDrive, as Luke is kind of segueing in. It's great because now my personal files are out there in the cloud. If I have a hardware failure, right, I can easily regain access to those. Mm-hmm. Or, even if I don't have a hardware failure, I can, if I'm on a cruise ship and I have internet access and I need to gain access to a file, I can do that. But then we also have, kind of like what they call business drives, right? Where there's also some tie-in to Teams. So I can, then truly collaborate these files. And so kind of getting back to my point of what we have in common, even for some of our, contracts here, we have, several different people, are responsible for different parts of that, say, file, that Word document. So using OneDrive allows us to, manage that content, share it, with immediate changes, and I don't have to worry about, well, who has the latest copy of the file? Can you email it to me? Mm-hmm. I have a one place, ironically OneDrive, that allows me access to that file.
What about like syncing? Like if you have this file in multiple places and you work on it here and there, talk to us a little bit about syncing and how that works with OneDrive.
Yeah, absolutely. So OneDrive is software that can be built into your computer. OneDrive represents two things. There's OneDrive software that's now built into every Windows 10 computer that's out there. That's already software that's there. And then the service itself, on the back end. The service itself on the back end is responsible for storing the files, and the software is responsible for syncing the files between a local folder that's on your laptop and the cloud. And one thing that it does is it only syncs what you're working on. Mm-hmm. So whatever you've recently worked on is what's gonna be synced down to your computer. The benefit of that now is you don't have 50,000 files on your computer that you're not actively using. It'll still look to you like they're there. Like if you were to open the folder with the files in it, you'd see all 50,000 or whatever the number is files in that folder, but it wouldn't really download it until you opened it. So until you double click on it, if you haven't worked on it recently, it's going to just be stored in the cloud. It's going to look to you the same, but it's saving the storage space on your computer. So it's really leveraging, a lot of the modern technology, solid state hard drives, aren't quite as big as regular hard drives in most cases. So you're really you're leveraging the cloud to not be storing as much stuff on your own system, and only be storing what you're working on actively.
Which has a twofold benefit when you think about what kind of equipment do I need to buy for myself or maybe my employees, team members. You're no longer having to purchase, the most expensive laptop out there. You just need a solid laptop that can access the internet. And then it also kind of does some thinking for you, meaning that if you're going to be working out of the office or you're going to be going on vacation, I don't know about you guys, but vacation and work separation is not really a thing, unfortunately, these days. But let's say that you've got 5 or 6 critical files that you need to work on, and you've got this on-premise server, and in the hustle and bustle of getting out the door, you forget to download those specific files. You're now wherever you're at, and you don't have those files. Enter OneDrive. All of your work is always going to be available to you wherever you go, which is really great.
And that's just a great way to leverage the cloud to make your small business more efficient, more effective, is the ability to store things in a central location that you can access from anywhere in the world. And that's really the core tenet of Microsoft OneDrive.
So moving on, we're going to dive into voice communications, which of all the things that happened during COVID, I would say this was probably one of the single biggest impediments for businesses who had an on-premise phone system with no mobility features. How in the world do you continue providing a service or a product to your customers without a mobile scalable phone system? So I'm sure by this point you've heard the terminology VoIP, and that literally stands for Voice over the Internet Protocol. So voice via internet instead of an old copper landline, which, fun fact, the public switch telephone network, which is literally the copper in the ground, is probably going to be gone permanently within the next 5 to 10 years, meaning there will be little to no communication happening on that because it's literally rotting in the ground. So when you think about a phone system for your business, again, it's like the file server system where you're purchasing a brain that hangs on a wall and connects to these voice lines is the old school way of doing it. Now with voice over IP, you're able to purchase a service through a cloud provider. We've used a company called Nextiva out of Arizona. So, the cloud is someone else's computer. VoIP is your phone system just living somewhere else. So Nextiva has, these data centers all throughout the country, and then you're able to get your phone service through that. So now it makes you able to take business phone calls on your cell phone, on your laptop, or a phone in your office. So when you build out VoIP, you've got this ability to be immediately scalable, mobile, and have all kinds of business continuity, that failover built into your phone system. So a real world example of that is you've got a small business with customer service, sales, and production, and all of a sudden, COVID happens and you've got to be able to work, from home. Now it's seamless. You just go home, you log into your app or you use your phone, and you're able to now call your customers without showing your cell phone number. You're showing your main business telephone number. You're still able to warm transfer calls between people in your business, just like as if you're in the office, which is really kind of cool when you think about it. 20 years ago, if COVID would have happened, can you imagine? There wasn't these capabilities. So when you think about the future and you think about buying into a phone system, think about VoIP, because it's going to be there for the long haul. And it's got all kinds of incredible back-end things too, like analytics. There's HIPAA compliance built into it if you work in any kind of medical space. And so, the beauty of that when you think about the future is that it's always going to be there. And just like the Microsoft tools, they're going to be doing the R&D for you. And you might be thinking, well, what about faxing? How do I fax? Well, faxing has forever been, almost on the same level as like a carrier pigeon. It's that level of technology. Yeah, send up a smoke
It's reliable. It's reliable for sure.
It is reliable. But you can now fax over the internet as well, and it's HIPAA compliant as long as you don't email those faxes to you. So as long as you just access those faxes through the portal. So just like the other Teams tools, you can go into a portal, you can see your faxes, all of your sent, all of your received, it's all built in there. Another nice thing about VoIP is that you've got 24/7 support. So a common thing these days are, unexpected closures, you've got your holiday events. It's all built in there, so you can do it on the fly. I've been shopping on Christmas Eve and gotten the message from my chief operating officer, hey, we're going to close down early, and I can literally just log into my voice system on my phone, change a schedule, and boom, just like that, my office is now closed. So when you think about a phone system for your business, there's really an infinite list of reasons why a voice over the internet phone system is so much more robust and beneficial than a traditional PBX or just in your office type of phone system.
Just being able to have an app on your computer or on your phone that can act as your desk phone from anywhere in the world is super powerful. I mean, making a phone call from your computer and then having it come from the office, so you're not calling a customer on your cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to be transferred calls. I mean, you could literally take your desk phone at your office and move it to your house or move it to a hotel and have it function exactly the same way as it does when you're in your office. That is truly, truly powerful and a great way to use the cloud to maximize the efficiency of your small business.
Absolutely. And then there's also SMS as well. So if you've got a direct dial phone number and a customer decides to text message you, you're able to receive that text message and text them back right out of the app, which is really neat. And then if you want to get into some really neat stuff, everyone's got different types of businesses out there. And one thing that's really popular these days is artificial intelligence, or conversational AI, as they call it. So if you've got functions that you do in your business, whether that's customer surveys or training or follow-up, you can build conversational AIs to do work for you. So that might be some like down the road stuff, but just keep in mind, when you buy into a voice over IP phone system, you're buying into all of the capabilities that are within that provider. So if 5 years from now, some way that we do business, changes, you're not going to be caught behind the curve having to completely reinvest in a different phone system just to be able to get this one feature that you need. So that's some really neat stuff that's built into that.
And I do see some questions rolling in. We're going to answer those questions here kind of at the end. Yes, Teams has some integration with phone systems. Mm-hmm. We can talk a little bit about that in our Q&A section.
So I'll just leave VoIP with, I like to say that, because I build these for our customers, and I like to say, hey, if you can imagine it in terms of a call flow or how to do something, 9 times out of 10, you can do it. So the possibilities are really limitless. And again, it's infinitely scalable, because if you have to hire 3 or 4 more people in a hurry, you can just do it and be up and running within a day, which is really cool. So we're going to move on into website and digital marketing, and then we're going to be close to diving into questions very shortly after that.
Awesome. So I just want to share a story. So I started my business in 2008, and one of the biggest mistakes or things that I would have done differently would have been to use a website and digital marketing service in the cloud rather than to try and do it myself. So, when you're in startup phase and you're trying to get your business off the ground, your time, your money, your energy, your effort are all very valuable, and we need to make sure that we're spending that time, energy, and effort in the right places. I personally spent a lot of capital getting my first website built. Me being a technical guy first myself, I wanted to get the website perfect. And so, I went out and hired a web designer and talked to a few different web design companies, had them, storyboard some different marketing ideas to me. And I invested a tremendous amount of time, energy, and effort into my first website and my first Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all of that, for my business. Had I to do that over again today, I would outsource that to another service provider. We have one that we recommend here. The name of that company is Pronto Marketing, but there's several out there. The way that they operate is you can give them an idea, and say, hey, this is kind of what I want. And what they'll do is they'll go build you a public website. They will, get your social media to match that public website. They'll manage posting on your Twitter account. They'll manage posting on your Facebook account. They'll manage your of course, your LinkedIn as well, and they'll do a digital newsletter for you, for your customers. So, you can pay one flat rate per month and get all of that, in the cloud versus, hiring a web design company to go out and do it. I mean, I want to say I put, north of $10,000 into my first website, and that's money I could have used to do a lot more. And it's certainly a lesson that I learned along the way. And when people come to me and ask me, for advice on starting their business, this is usually one of the first things that I'll point them to is don't spend a tremendous amount of time on building out your first website and the digital marketing profile for your business. Let a professional do that. There's so much to know. And it's typically not in the startup business's best interest to spend a tremendous amount of time on that. It's better to outsource that to someone that is an expert in that field. So that's just a story that I like to tell. To people.
Yeah, I like what you said, Justin, about you're making a differentiator between time and then the expense that you put out. And sometimes the time is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the expense that we put out. I mean, and that's something that we talk about around here is, as we go in and we coach some of our clients, we ask that, we want to take on their IT and their technology because that's our area of expertise. I am not a CPA by any stretch of the imagination. So, and conversely, a CPA does not necessarily know IT. So definitely stick with a professional. I think this is just kind of one of our principles is, allow us to focus on IT and you focus on your business. And I think conceptually, that's the same thing here is, allow someone else to focus on your marketing, your website design, and then you focus on what you're passionate about, and you'll see how freeing and exciting that is.
That's a great segue into our next slide about pro tips. So as technologists, we use this stuff every day, so we kind of find the neat little things that you can use to benefit yourself. So we're going to go through a couple of tips here. We'll do these quickly because I know we're coming up on Q&A time. So Justin, why don't you drive us through these pro tips here a little bit?
Yeah. So when I put this together, this was really intended to be a hit list of things that you can start doing now that are in the cloud that you can really use to help your small business. The first one I'm going to say is a free trial of Office 365. There's so much value in the Office 365 subscription, far more than I can get into right here because of the number of applications that are built into Office 365. But I would say if you haven't already, just go out there and sign up for a free trial of Office 365. Play around with it, see what you like, see what you don't like. That's a great pro tip is you can get into it for free for 30 days to just try it out if you're curious. The next one is going to be Microsoft Bookings. So this is a tremendously powerful tool that allows you to send a link. People are setting up meetings with me all the time, and they're asking for availability on my calendar. And of course that takes a few emails to communicate that to someone. So instead of doing that, I can send a link in my signature that talks about my availability. It integrates directly with my calendar, and it will tell people when I have available time slots in my calendar so that they can pick the time that works for them, and it will book it out, and then it will put it in my calendar and keep me up to speed with when people want to do their meetings. So Microsoft Bookings is a tremendously powerful tool.
And you can customize those parameters too. So you might leave like your morning and afternoon to yourself and just show yourself available during certain times. And that really comes in handy when you talk about trying to coordinate a meeting with more than one person. That email thread can get really complex. So Bookings comes in real handy when you talk about getting multiple parties together.
Absolutely. Microsoft Planner is another one. Now, this is a sort of task management tool, project management tool. You can use it to create charts and tasks and see your team's progress on certain things. So if I wanted to do a task about conducting a webinar, I can create this in Planner and then have everyone that's involved in that that project, if you will, with their various tasks, and then I can see at a glance, what their progress is on these tasks. Another similar tool that people might be familiar with is Trello. It's just another kind of project management / task management utility that's built into Office 365. But again, tremendously powerful. Luke, why don't you take the voicemail to email?
Yeah, built into VoIP is going to be voicemail to email. Super slick, super easy, saves you that whole, press 1 to hear your new messages. You have 14 new messages. Message number 1. Think about just the time incrementally over the years where you're just listening to pointless noise. Now you get a voicemail to email. It's right there. You can listen to it. You can share it to the appropriate person. It's really slick. And then that, Bluetooth headsets, we live and die by these things. You can, use it on I'm working from home. I'm on my desktop app. I'm driving down the road. I'm on my cell phone app. I'm communicating wherever I am, piece of cake. These Bluetooth headsets come in real handy. And then, just talking about smartphones, the Teams app is available on smartphones too. So I've had situations where my desktop or my laptop's not booting up, but I need to join a Teams meeting. I can jump in on my cell phone and wait for my computer to restart. So again, you can pass that voice call or video call back and forth between a desktop, laptop, or a mobile device. And then last but not least would be password managers.
Justin, so let me touch on this for a second. This is another recommendation I always like to make to people is forget the word password. We want to think passphrase. Your brain remembers a phrase better than it remembers a bunch of series of letters and numbers. So a password manager is an application that you can install or a cloud application that you can access in the cloud that stores all of your passwords. You remember one master passphrase, and then it will insert your password for you in the various services that you use. This saves me a lot of time. It takes a little bit of time to invest to kind of build up the number of passwords that you have stored in there, but it's life-changing once you get into the groove of using it because it will really save a tremendous amount of time. And something else I want to go back on and hit is Conversation View in Outlook. I get a lot of emails, and Conversation View really helps me to stay in communication or with the latest thread. So it's a threaded view of your communications in Outlook. So if you have an email with the same subject and somebody's replying, I can collapse that all into my Outlook view so that I only see the latest message, and then I can expand it out into a thread of emails that that I can see who said what in that thread. A Conversation View saves me a lot of time because I'm not getting dinged all day with every email that is part of a thread. I can look at it in one sort of contiguous block in one thread, and that's a feature that lives in Outlook 2016 and beyond. You'll see it up in the top ribbon bar. Conversation View, super powerful, saves a tremendous amount of time.
Before we go to our last slide here, just a little sneak peek for a future talk that we're going to do about security. When you think about a password manager, the beauty of that is that you've got one front door key that you can then do two-factor authentication to, and now all of your passwords are protected behind that, versus what commonly happens is we use one password for all these different services, and if you get hacked in one place, the other areas could potentially be compromised too. So another hidden benefit of a password manager is security. Our last slide here is just our shameless plug about who we are as an organization. And we basically operate as an outsourced IT department, which includes your chief information security officer, your help desks, your technology planning, budgeting, procurement, troubleshooting, daily help, helping you look at technology and build it into your culture. It's all of the things that you would try to do and accomplish by hiring an IT person. So just like we've talked about all the tools today that you would hire as services instead of trying to do yourself, and we do that for customers by way of being their IT department as a service. So without further ado, we want to jump into the questions here. Thank you guys so much for these. And let's go back up to the top here and let's see what we've got. So Elizabeth was curious if OneDrive is on Mac.
Yes.
Do I need to upload it? I don't see the icon.
Yeah, so you can find the OneDrive application in the App Store for Apple computers. OneDrive is absolutely available for Apple computers as well.
And then Erica was curious if Microsoft Teams has a phone app. I think I hit on that briefly. The answer is yes. So when you log into your phone, you can see your Teams. I don't know if that'll work properly. So you're going to be able to see your activity, chat, your individual teams, your calendar. It's all baked into the app version for phone. And that's one of the things that you'll notice with like VoIP and Microsoft Teams. Their app that goes on your laptop or desktop is going to look almost identical, obviously just resized for your iPhone. You can take calls on it, video chat. It's all built in right there, which is pretty slick.
And I'll add to that too.
Tremendously powerful.
There's a conferencing bridge and tool that you can also procure additionally that will allow folks to actually dial in to that conference bridge as well.
Yes.
Earlier on, I mentioned the convenience. Will people do it? If it's not convenient, they probably won't. When you look at Outlook and you go to schedule a meeting, when Zoom and all the different platforms became popular, it's like, okay, well, I use Zoom for screen sharing. I use a conference telephone number for telephone. You've got these different sources to do one job. Teams brings it all together and makes it really convenient. So if you need to schedule a meeting with anybody, and what's great is now lots of people are using Teams. So even outside your organization, it works. You just go into your Outlook calendar, you create a new event, and you can click Teams meeting right there in the calendar, and it's going to put a link in there that's already got the time. It's going to bring everybody together. So it's just a simple one click. It's scheduled. It's there. It's just for the people that have that link. And when you click into it, it brings you together. And now you've got video, voice, screen sharing. You can also share your mouse and controls. So that's really neat how it's all built in together.
Yeah. And then I want to speak to the question about the possibility of building AI into your phone system. I want to just kind of highlight one example that I've found that it's kind of neat that I've heard of is customer service. So there's keywords that the AI can listen to and pick up if this is an unhappy customer.
Yeah.
And so they're getting tone inflection. They're getting what words they're using. And it's basically able to flag calls to see if there are upset customers in the queue or upset customers talking to support. That's one way that AI can be used, in a cloud telephone system to analyze the words that are being said and to pick up on if there are unhappy customers or things. Now that's pretty advanced stuff.
Yeah.
But that is stuff that is out there and available for cloud phone systems.
Another neat way of using it is for taking payments over the phone, which is not something that you can do by saying, okay, tell me your credit card number now, let me put it in. So you can actually transfer somebody to an AI that can take that payment, and that whole process of that AI taking payment is going to meet every compliance out there, HIPAA, and what that does is it protects you, protects your customer, and then again, it's a time-saving mechanism because a tool is now taking care of that for you. And then you can also do customer surveys after the fact. So if you provide a service and you want to find out from 100 different customers if they're happy or not, instead of you or somebody on your team spending the time calling each customer to ask some specific questions, an AI can actually do it for you. It will call, talk to them, and then record the answers. You can get a recorded message, or they can prompt for, is it a 1 through 5 star experience? And then that AI can then put that data into a pie chart or some visual that you can look at and see what your customer satisfaction is. And again, it's something that happened in the background that didn't take any of your time.
Yeah. So the next question that I see here is what type of cloud is, I'm going to assume that's Microsoft MS Teams. The answer to that is maybe not as straightforward as it seems. Teams can run on public cloud, it can run on private cloud, and it can run in hybrid cloud. An example of this is you can get Microsoft Teams in government cloud, which is more of a sort of private cloud environment. You can get it in public cloud, which is just regular like Office 365. So the answer to that question is it can run in any sort of type of cloud environment, but default right through Office 365, it's running through Microsoft Azure, which is a public cloud service.
And that's going to have a lot to do with if your business has to meet certain compliance, maybe if you work with the DoD or some entity that requires a certain level of compliance, that can sometimes trickle down to which type of cloud you need to use.
And then I see a next question is, why can I sometimes see emails on my phone and not on my computer? Honestly, that's something you probably want to talk to your IT department about. Clearly, if you're getting email in both places, then it should show up in both places. So I'd say that's probably more of a question for your help desk.
If you have one, if not, maybe you should get one.
And the same question, are there time limitations to how long items can remain in the cloud? It's a fantastic question.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There are certain, data that's regulatorily controlled, and using a cloud service, you can control based on markers in the files how long that they're retained. So this is the answer to this question is it's totally customizable depending on your business. You can have it just stored in the cloud for 30 days. You can have it stored infinitely in the cloud. As Brian kind of alluded to earlier, storage is pretty cheap these days.
Mm-hmm.
And the ability to store things for a long period of time in the cloud is certainly there. And there's different tiers of storage in the cloud. You can have a tier of storage that's for hot, what they call hot storage, which is like things that are immediately accessible, high performance. And then there's Azure Data Lake, which is for archival. If you know that you have these terabytes worth of customer records that you're never going to use again, or you need to keep them around for reference purposes, you can put them in cold storage. So that like archive, there's Amazon Glacier is an example of that. Azure Data Lake is an example of that. And you can store these things for long term. So the answer to the question directly is, are there limitations? No, there are no time limitations, but you can customize that to your heart's desire.
And I see a question about Google Drive, and I think the answer to that is yes. Google Drive, G Suite, and Teams, Microsoft Office 365 are kind of comparable products. I think what we see in the business world these days is a lot more adherence to Microsoft. There just seems to be a little bit better end user experience, and most of our clients use Microsoft over Google Drive, but I think it's totally fine.
But there's a lot of opinions, of course, on what platform is the best. We as an organization have standardized on the Microsoft solution stack, but that's not to say anything bad about any of the other ways to do it out there. We wanted to stay focused on some of the solutions that we know and support every day.
Well, tying it back to our original, why do we exist, right? We use these tools to grow our own business, and and that's what we want to do, is help you thrive through COVID-19, and beyond, really. So our intimate knowledge of these tools, I think, is what's going to help us have that right conversation with customers too.
Absolutely. And I see another question: is Planner the new Microsoft project? No. Planner is more geared for a smaller engagement. Project is going to be a Gantt chart. Maybe people are familiar with a Gantt chart and how you chart out resources, and whereas Planner is going to be more, I say, geared towards a smaller project. Things where you are maybe collaborating with a fewer number of people, or there are not quite as many moving parts in it.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage you to check out Planner and see if it meets your need. It certainly does for a lot of maybe smaller projects.
And then we'll wrap up here because I know we're at our hour. Just like to leave you with a simple thought that if you've got a business, with 10 or 15 or more workstations, and you like to look for some help for any of the things that we've mentioned, you can just go on our website there, 360itpartners.com, and hit the Contact Us section and fill out a very short form. That'll come to me. We can schedule a time to sit down and talk. But we hope that you've been able to take away something useful from this time together about how to leverage cloud to make your business thrive during COVID-19. We're all experiencing this uncertain time together and adjusting, and I think this is the beauty of us as humans. We're super adaptable, and we always find a way to overcome. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for your questions. We appreciate all you guys' time, and especially to the ladies at the ODU Women's, Tasha, Erica, Deborah, thank you guys so much for putting this together for everybody, and we look forward to the next time together, which I think will be in 2 weeks, I believe.
To the 18th?
I believe that date is February the 8th.
Perfect.
Deborah, please confirm that for me.
Yes, we had to move that date to February 8th.
Awesome. And I think that's going to be our cybersecurity talk, I believe.
Yes. So the next one is going to be in 2 weeks from now, and I don't recall what the topic is.
I think it's cybersecurity, but we'll double check on that.
Yeah.
But they're all
So the cybersecurity got moved to the end of the series.
okay. Got it.
Okay, so it got moved to the end of the series.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to all of them, and we look forward to seeing some of you guys come back and continuing the conversation.
Okay then.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye bye.